Ho, 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 ho. Open up your door. I'm Santa Claus, and guess what, y'all? I got something to show. I came to bring some Christmas spirit. I got a big bag now. Guess what's in it?
A lot of talk on the Pat McAfee show, and people react to what he says. He said that he's always going to bet on himself, and he's always going to hold himself to a standard. If anybody wants to come out there and fight with him, they're more than welcome to. What's your reaction to that? Are you like, all right, suit me up, let's go?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of what he said. I haven't really kept tuned with him on the Pat McAfee show this year too much, but yeah, I think that's kind of the mentality that you really need to have to be able to survive in this league at this level. You have to be able to believe in yourself even when things aren't going the way they are in the moment, that eventually you'll persevere and you'll be able to come back out on top. I mean, this guy's had arguably the craziest career at the QB position ever, and just because the play as of recently doesn't necessarily align to that doesn't mean that he's still not that person and still doesn't have that ability. And I think that once again goes back to everyone in soccer, just because we're not playing the best and we're not getting the production and success that we want doesn't mean that we can't very much achieve what we set out to go get.
Going off of that, just to be back home, do you feel like this is a time, yes, you've got a short schedule kind of Sunday and then Thursday, but do you feel like this is a moment for you guys to collect yourself?
Absolutely. I think it was the first time I've had 3 away games in the 4 years I've been here. It's always great to be at Lambeau, not just because of it's the home game and everything, but just because of how special it is and having our fans at our backs and having the home field advantage and just being able to play in our environment. Especially, it's November, it's getting colder, darker now earlier, so especially this back half of the season, I think this is especially when we play our best football, including myself.
Injuries hit you guys pretty hard on Sunday.
What's new?
Yeah, yeah. Is it just kind of another like what's the
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just been the theme of the year and everything. Of guys got to step up, different responsibilities, different roles throughout the game that get presented, and just got to be able to adjust with it and just keep going forward.
How much, though, does it feel like because of that and just persistent injuries that y'all haven't been able to really kind of put your full offense on the field?
I think it's a multitude of things. I think obviously injuries, trying different guys out of different positions, different plays. We run good plays and then maybe one guy doesn't do his job too well, then it kind of ruins the play and whatnot. And I think so. It's been a multitude of things throughout the entire year of just not being able to get the offense to be able to fully click and get things rolling. But I think we still did a lot of positive things coming off these past 2 weeks in our offense and the development and everything, and we can continue to grow off of that, and hopefully we get the thing rolling this weekend.
By the middle of the season in general, Alan, are you guys building off what you've done or rebooting on a week-to-week basis, and does that change given where you are this year?
I think we got to focus on the positives and building off of those things. Obviously, there's been a lot of things that haven't gone our way, and things that we'd like to improve and everything, but if we focus on the positives, what we're doing right, seeing the mistakes that we are making and correcting those, and I think this back half of the season we'll be able to make that advancement in our offense.
Are there enough of those positives to say this is what we can take and go forward with?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of positives. Going back to, just because we run a play and it doesn't get the result that we want doesn't mean that 9 or 10 of the guys on the play didn't do their job very well. So I'm just, being able to take those plays that we didn't get the production that we wanted on them, and to focus on the smaller details on why we didn't get those, and to hone in on the detail and be able to go out there and execute it at the ability that we can.
Halfway through the season, the record given what it is, do you start to do playoff math?
It's hard not to, but I play football. I don't do math well, or NFL math and playoff and all that stuff. So I think, regardless, it would be asinine for us to think about playoffs when we got to focus on just getting a win first. And I think that's just really where it starts at, and focusing on details in practice and preparation going into the week. And, we can start focusing on playoffs once we get a little winning streak going.
That's not mutually exclusive. You can do both.
You can do both, but I think it's a little bit better to focus on more.
I'm happy that he drafted me here, and he believed in me. Great guy, and great coach.
How would you characterize how things ended with his tenure here, and have you kept in touch with him at all since?
No, I haven't really kept in touch with him. mean, what happened here, I mean, it's football. You know, we had a couple of rough years, and you know, he got fired. So, I mean, it's football. You know, whenever we're not getting stuff done, then changes got to happen.
Injuries are a part of the game, but obviously you guys got hit pretty hard on Sunday, losing Rashawn for the season. How do you guys what's the reaction to that, I guess?
Yeah, it's tough for RG, man. It's a guy that really loves football, and somebody that we gonna for sure miss on the field, miss his energy, what he brings, as far as production standpoint. So as a collective, we all got to step up.
What have you seen from JJ?
JJ, he's been having a really good season. Continuing to improve every week. So he got to just keep doing what he's doing.
Saw Devondre Campbell have some thoughts on the turf. What's your thoughts on playing on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think most injuries happen on those turf fields. Those turf games are definitely rough on the legs and on everybody. So,
is there anything they can really do about it with so many indoor leagues, though, especially in environments you can't really roll the grass out like Phoenix everywhere?
Yeah, I'm not really too experienced with it, but it's $1 billion organization. I mean, they can figure out a way.
I know a lot of you guys talk about keeping that 1-0 mentality, but as you go through this tough stretch, is it more difficult to do that? And are you starting to kind of look at the bigger picture yet?
Not really. We gotta just take it one game at a time, one play at a time. We've been preaching that all week, and that's just the mentality going into the week.
Is there any relief just to be back home?
Yeah, it's gonna be cool to be back home, be back in front of our fans. We had a rough away trip, so just to be back in front of our fans is gonna be cool.
Does that bring a sense of confidence that just transcends the streak that you're on?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, man, we just trying to just find our ways to play our best ball. We have stretches here and there where we playing really good football, really good complementary football, and we just trying to find a way to be consistent and carry that throughout the day.
You told Matt some great stories yesterday about Mike. What's the one thing that you'll kind of always think about when you think about him?
There's a lot of things. Getting sized the night before the Super Bowl will always be a special memory. That whole night, we delayed the team meeting, 15 minutes or so, because a couple guys were on the piano playing some songs. You just kind of felt that moment was special, and I appreciated us delaying things and allowing that moment to exist, and then getting sized for your ring, just the confidence that we had and what that kind of statement meant was always really special. Mike and I started meeting Thursdays after practice for many, many years, but like in 2009 or 10, I think it was, and those were always fun. Those could go 30 minutes or 4 hours. Just start getting into story time, and it just bonded us, I think, over the years, those conversations, and I always appreciated that. I have a lot of gratitude for the off seasons that we went through. Now it was long. It was obviously the rules are a little bit different, but that helped me become a better player, and I'll always be really thankful for that time, and especially those early off seasons.
You and he both talked about how you've communicated recently. When did y'all start kind of rejuvenating that relationship to start communicating a little bit more, or did that happen?
Well, we're both busy people with our schedules, and obviously he has a lot of family commitments during the off season. But we've always kind of been in touch a little bit more, I'd say, the last year or so. I think as time goes by, the gratitude for that time as you look back on the journey of your career is goes up a little bit, and you appreciate the little things a little bit more, because really this game and life is about the journey, and I'll always be tied with him because of the connection that we had and the years we spent together. Obviously my longest tenured coach, longest tenured play caller. Thankful for those years, and thankful maybe a little bit more as the years go by.
You spent 13 years with someone. That's a long time with anyone. Talk about the gratitude. Was the gratitude when you're so close to the person maybe harder to see when that relationship ended than it is now with the benefit of hindsight?
Well, I think, Ryan, that's probably normal in any relationship that you have. You know, when you're able to take time away and you have that separation, it's natural to look back and have a greater sense of appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness for that time. You know, I think comparison is definitely the enemy of joy. So I never want to compare this to that. I don't think that's fair to anybody involved. But I think it's normal, you know, to think about the things that you really loved about that relationship or that style or that program, and just contemplate how special some of those moments were, how the journey was really, you know, the most important thing, and the ups and downs. Thankful for the incredible moments, the highs that we had, and there were many of them, and thankful for the low moments too, because it gives you perspective on life. Life is not all about the beautiful ups. It's the downs that you learn the most lessons in, I think.
Micah Parsons had 2 requests when he talked today. He said he wants to switch jerseys with you, and also that he doesn't want to be chipped. What's the likelihood of each of those happening?
Probably pretty strong on the jersey swap. Probably not as strong on the other part.
Aaron, when you look at your series with the Cowboys over the years, the memories you made in the playoffs and the regular season, how would you characterize that, and what will it mean to compete against Mike in this series against the Cowboys?
Well, not compete against Mike, compete against Mike's team, but a lot of good memories in that stadium. This is obviously going to be a different stadium, but a lot of good memories down at that stadium. Obviously in Dallas in general, my first extended time, you know, playing down there on the old Crown Field was really special. And some great memories over the years, especially in the playoffs against those guys. Even a great memory when I wasn't playing. We were down 26-3 at halftime, and Flenny led us back on an incredible comeback. I remember the celebration in the locker room, especially the late Kevin Green dancing. There's a great gif of that somewhere, I'm sure, that was a special moment for us. But, you know, I grew up a huge fan of the league, and Niners-Cowboys was a big-time rivalry, so I obviously grew up a Niner fan. And then as a lot of my favorite players transitioned, Green Bay and Dallas had a great rivalry over the years, and it's fun to still be a part of this and to have some great memories against that team over the years.
How many defensive players in the league can do what Parsons does in terms of from a couple different spots and still be as effective at each one?
I don't know if there's anybody. You know, I think Dan does a great job of using him. They have a lot of different personnel packages. He's on the line of scrimmage in some of them. He's off the ball, drops some coverage. But he's got a lot of things that you just can't coach. I mean, you can emphasize, but the effort that he plays with is incredible. And he's made some incredible effort plays where he's way out of the play. There's a play against the Lions. You know, he's way out of the play on the backside, and he runs the guy down and stops him on the 1. And the next play, they get a fumble and kind of turn that game around where they could have been behind after that play. And instead they're, you know, getting the ball there, and it's a whole different ball game because he never gave up on the play and tackled the guy inside the 1-yard line. And there's been multiple high effort plays by him. You know, I remember watching a little bit of the Hard Knocks that they had, and I liked his disposition. I liked how coachable that he was, and you knew he was going to be a player just by the way they were talking about him and the stuff you saw in practice. But he's definitely a one of one in this league. I don't know if there's anybody that's doing as many things as they're asking him to do.
Mike shed a few tears this week in his press conference. Is that different than the old Mike that you knew? Would he have ever done that, or did he get emotional ever when he was around here?
Oh, he definitely did. Yeah, Mike's Pittsburgh toughness and grit on the outside, and big soft teddy bear on the inside. And I think that's a great combination to have. But there were definitely some tears over the years, both in team settings and also some one-on-one settings. Him and I definitely shed some tears over the years together in conversations. Usually happy tears, I would say. But yeah, Mike's a big-hearted guy, and I'd like to see him let the emotions come out.
What's the most memorable time that you guys maybe had some waterworks together?
There were a lot of real private conversations that we had over the years that I just appreciated his honesty in some of those moments. We had a really memorable time in 2013 on Christmas, actually. I hit him up in the afternoon and said, hey, once things are winding down with the kids, I'd like to come over and have a conversation with you. And so I went over. I think he had a couple Iron Cities. I can't remember exactly. I might have had one just to, make him not drink alone. But I wasn't ever really an Iron City guy. But we had a long conversation about my desire to play in the following week against Chicago, and that was a really memorable conversation. Obviously, it's Christmas, and that has a whole, myriad of emotions it brings into it. But that time and that conversation is always one that stands out for me.
Mike has said over the years, and he said again this week, that the exit didn't sit well with him. He said it left a dent in his family. I'm curious, how did the exit and the way that happened sit with you?
Well, it happened on my birthday, for one, which was really strange. We came off a bad loss. I mean, we weren't a great team that year, but bad loss against a bad football team at home. Everybody was already down about that, a full house of people, trying to put on a birthday party for me, and that was a really strange night for sure. When something like that happens and it's so jarring, there's a state of shock that happens that I think kind of stuck with me for a while. I remember specifically there was a morning, one of the strangest parts about the whole thing was there was a morning like 7:30, and I'm coming in the stadium off the freeway, and I'm on Lombardi at Ridge, and I look over to the left and I see Mike in his truck. And it was a really weird feeling because it was one of the first times where it really, really sunk in, like, man, he's not the head coach anymore. I'm thankful for what Joe did. Joe brought him in to talk to the team after his firing. And I thought that was a special moment for him to have some closure and for us to be able to hear from him. I remember when Mike Sherman was fired after 2005, how strange that was to have him come in and address the team, but just how probably there was a therapeutic nature to that for all of us. But there was definitely shock and just like some numbness around it, just because things have been status quo forever. He'd been head coach, I'd been quarterback, and that all changed, in a matter of minutes, and it was a hard year on everybody.
Aaron, looking at Detroit, we heard how you characterized some of the throws on Sunday. Now that you've looked at the film and Tom's looked at the film with you, how would you characterize your performance, and where does that rank in those in your career?
I had a couple bad throws for sure. I think overall, there were a lot of positive plays. But it wasn't the worst performance of my career, but there were a couple bad throws for sure.
So you're so experienced at this and the psychology of sports, but I can't help but wonder if you're putting more on your plate, can you lead to being pressing, or maybe even that leads to a slump when you're trying to carry more during this period?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I've done that as much as I can. I think as a leader, you got to try and make your teammates better and try and inspire them. And I don't feel like I've changed a whole lot of the way I've played. We just haven't made a lot of plays on offense.
Aaron, you've talked in the last month or so, possibly doing more with your legs or whatever. I'm wondering if you've ever considered the opposite, doing less, considering who you got around you, doing less, doing things more just by the book. Anything to that?
I think there's been more by the book this year than any year in my career, I would say, because we haven't had the veteran group on the outside to handle really the position switches like we've had in years past, where guys can play X, F, and Z and be interchangeable. So we've probably done a little bit less this year. I've played from the pocket, predominantly, I think, the last couple of years. There's been times, the last few weeks where I've tried to extend plays a little bit more. Not necessarily prompted by yourself and some of the questions you've asked, but because we've needed it, I think I got to keep doing some of that stuff. There are obviously a couple runs in the game that help us out, but it all comes down to timing. If we're open on time, the ball comes out. If we're not open, I got to extend some plays, and that's where the mental awareness has to come in. Do I got to deal it, or can I extend plays and use my legs a little bit?
Aaron, generally in mid-season, generally, good or bad, are you building upon as a team what you've done to this point, or are you rebooting week to week, and does that change given the circumstances now?
I think there's a lot of resetting going on for sure. We don't have a lot to build on offensively. We haven't, put up a lot of points. Then last week I felt like we moved the ball pretty effectively, both in regular offense and some tempo offense. So that's good to build on, but situational football has hurt us all season. We've been, real average on third down and worse than that in the red zone, it feels like. And that's kept us from scoring points. And our defense has had some stretches where they played pretty good. They hold them to 15 points. We should win all those games. And it's come down to us executing in the red zone. And then third down, we've been a little bit better the last couple of weeks, but nowhere near good enough.
So along those lines there, I'll go ahead, Jason. Going back to the offense. Help me out with this, okay? If I'm completely wrong, please tell me.
I will.
Okay? I know you will. It's part of our charm. You've talked all the time about there's the paper offense, and then there's the offense, how you run it. You've also talked about how you and Matt collaborated and how you guys have built your own version of this offense. And it worked great in 2 MVP seasons with a bunch of experienced guys around you. What would happen if you ran the offense exactly how Matt designed it? Like, it's designed for a guy who's not as good as you, right? This is the offense that's kind of like idiot-proof. And any quarterback can run it and be pretty productive if it's run just with the paint-by-numbers approach. What if...
Possibly.
Is that fair or not? If I'm wrong, if anything I'm saying is wrong, tell me.
I will. Keep going, I'll tell you where you're wrong.
So how about you take a 2-time, back-to-back, 4-time NFL MVP who's surrounded by a bunch of guys, whether they're veterans or young guys who don't quite know what they're doing, like Devontae and Jordy and everybody else, and you ran it by the book, and you saw what they could do. Explain to me why that's a bad idea.
I think it has been by the book a bunch. I think that's where maybe you have the idea is a little bit off. It has been very by the book. I think the struggle has been how do we make it by the book but not robotic. When it's robotic, unless you have a perfect scheme that's paired up with a perfect defense for that scheme, it's not going to be open. So I think that's where the little details come in, where we're not trying to be robotic. Obviously, we're trying to run the plays by the book. We're not going way outside the offense. I'm not going way outside the offense unless we're in a 2-minute situation and there's something that I've seen that I'm calling that might be an ode to years past based on the looks that we're getting. But we're not going outside the offense. We're a little too robotic at times, I think, and then the details on some of the things aren't showing up consistently, where, there may be on paper route stems, and sometimes the robotic is going to work. There were multiple plays in the game where if we do the robotic part of that, if we do the day one teaching, if we take the proper steps, we have a big play, but it's not showing up. So it's a fine line between the robotic schematics at times, which can scheme people open, and then the ability to leave room for instincts. Now, when you're playing with the Davante Adams, you leave a lot of room for instincts because he's able to do a lot of things that other guys just can't do. When you don't have that, you obviously lean on the scheme, but you still have to understand the details, so we're not just out there going through the motions. We still have to leave room for the instinctual part of the game to kick in for some of our guys. So, again, I don't know if there's an idea that we're going way outside the system. I don't think that's the case. I think we've been more by the book this year than we have been, in any year that Matt's been here.
So when you tell Pat that there's still a lot of mental mistakes, that totally makes sense because whether it's Sammy who's new here or young guys, what else can you do to reduce them? Because we've heard you talk about how many there are, but they still seem to be the same number.
If I knew, we wouldn't be talking about it. I think it's the same. It's the same stuff, though. It's a lot of, some of it is day one teaching. It's day one install, some of the stuff that we just need to, in the moment, be able to hearken back to those things. And then, you almost want that to be robotic in those situations where if you have a 7-step cut, you can't cut at 5. You're not going to be open. So it's about the details. It's about the preparation. It's about the details. And I don't have a great answer for you because we've been trying a lot of different things. To the coach's credit, they've been trying a lot of different ways of teaching and installing and interaction and group discussions, and just has to come down to when we get in the fire, we got to make the right plays every single time because we're just not good enough right now to have those little tiny mistakes because it's taken us, where big plays are possible. If we're not on the right timing, we're not going to have any success doing those things.
Along those lines, Aaron, it's
you probably just answered some of this, but you and Goody and Matt, even through training camp, talked about the offense being a work in progress. Where have you seen progress over the last 3 months? Has there been, because from the way outside where I sit, there's been almost none. Obviously, you have a much different perspective than I have, though.
Well, I think practice habits for one. I think we've seen better practice habits from some of the young guys. I think 83 has shown some progression for sure, especially the last few weeks of making some plays, and that's directly tied to his practice habits. I haven't called him Captain Casual in weeks. He's been really practicing his off and doing a good job. But I think a lot of it's just health, Bill. I really do. I mean, I'm not going to lean on that as a major excuse, but we haven't, had our repertoire of all of our receivers, and we just haven't been consistent enough to move the ball consistently without those guys.
I throw this more on the outside extension. Do you want him to come back to the ball on that, or is that
which one?
On the extension where he came across the field? Do you want him to come back to the ball on that, or is that an underthrow on your part?
I mean, I feel like it was a little low at the top. It seemed like he could have maybe come more negative when he was coming across the field. Maybe he lost a little bit of ground, but it's still a throw I probably feel like I should hit.
Some of these throws that you label throws, how much, it's not like you lost your arm talent when you're the backs. I mean, how much of this is just when you can't trust that the details are going to be crisp? Does that make it harder to throw the ball where you want it every single time?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's that might play into a little bit of it, but I think it's there's a combination of a lot of different things. But it's hard to put on just one thing.
You had been out there last Wednesday. Any difference in the thumb, or you still planning to be out there Friday?
Yeah, I'll be out there tomorrow. I threw last week and didn't feel like it was a positive for me going into Sunday, so felt like today was better to just do rehab up here than go down and watch practice once the team started. But it was better for me to get that hour and a half in up here than down there throwing the football.
Aaron, there were a couple plays where you had guys running down the seam that didn't pull the trigger. There were two of them. What did you see on those? Oh, yeah.
Well, one I probably should have pulled the trigger on DeGuara. The timing was a little bit off on that one. Still probably should have thrown it. The other one, we weren't quite running the proper route, and it turned out, it looked like it was open, but because the spacing was way off, it kind of messed with my eyes a little bit. After I looked left, and Bobby, was kind of running in the middle, and so was Allen. They're almost side by side and both kind of open. Just the spacing was off, so it kind of messed with me a little bit, and I looked outside.
The last time the Pack faced the Cowboys, Aaron Jones had a day.
Here's the handoff. Jones bounces it up to the outside, makes the turn, touchdown! Jones up the middle, big hole, 15 to the 10, coming left to the 5, touchdown!
In just 2 games versus Dallas, Jones has 5 rushing scores, the most in the NFL against the Cowboys since 2017. Aaron Jones ranks in the top 10 among running backs in yards per carry this season. At the top of that list, the Cowboys' own Tony Pollard.
Right back to Pollard. A really good cut and a touchdown for Pollard.
The 4th-year back is coming off his first ever 3-score game, already notching a career-best 5 TDs. And he's making it look easy, ripping off multiple 50-plus yard touchdown runs this season. Then there's 7th-year vet Ezekiel Elliott, who can punish defenses out on the perimeter, or hit the jump button to go up and over, hurdling defenders like a track star, before punching it right up the gut for 6.
It's Elliott into the end zone for the game's first touchdown.
This may be the most explosive rushing tandem in the league and will require a full-fledged fight from the Green Bay Packers.
Our resiliency has got to show through, and I know it's not easy. It's easy when you're winning, but when you're not winning, it can reveal a lot of things. So I think it's just important for our team to stay together and really look inward. Everybody accountable to one another and trying to do the best they can. That's all we'll ask of anybody. Just be your best every day, and hopefully those results.
It's three guys with three things, and without further ado, Mike, you are up.
Well, Larry, we talk about a lot of stats through the course of an NFL season. Point differential, turnover differential. I got a new one for you with this Cowboys team. Sack differential, plus 21. The Dallas Cowboys have 33 sacks on defense. They've only allowed 12. Micah Parsons leads that defense with 8. 3 other guys have 4 or more. And whether it's been Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott at quarterback, it's hard to get to them. These guys protect their quarterback, and they get after the other guy's quarterback, and that's going to be a big factor Sunday.
And Wes, your turn.
Larry, my guy for this one is Rashawn Gary. Now, Sunday was a tough day for Rashawn, as we found out. Pretty significant knee injury he's dealing with, was just placed on injury reserve. But afterwards, he wasn't sulking. He wasn't going, woe is me. Kingsley Enagbare, easy enough for me to say, was actually in his locker and being around the team. He wasn't sure what to expect with Gary. But Gary was the one kind of propping him up, telling him, I'm going to be there for you with anything you need. And Kingsley even said it kind of took him off guard a little bit. He wasn't anticipating that. But I think it's an illuminating look into a driven young man that, despite all the adversity faced and potentially a long road ahead for Rashawn, he's still thinking of his teammates.
Guys, I think rookie Zach Tom deserves some sort of three things merit badge. One game he starts at left tackle, one of the Packers' highest grading players. The next game he starts at left guard, one of the Packers' highest grading players. And then the next game he spends some time at right guard and some time at left tackle. And again, he's one of the Packers' highest grading players. Zach Tom, a special three things merit badge to you. And fellas, it is my birthday today.
It is. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Rock.
Well, I noticed you guys didn't kind of chip in and get me a present, like a store-bought present.
Maybe we haven't given it to you yet, boss.
And I also noticed you guys didn't even kind of get together and get a card.
Sorry.
Well, you know, guys, that kind of hurts my feelings. And that is it for three things, maybe forever.
Jingle, jangle, jingle for the pole. Don't take us for granted, 'cause you may never know.